What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well, having a good Wednesday. Now, me and Marcel were just chatting before we started, right? And I started off on a line of thought and I said, actually, you know what? Save it. We'll just go live and we'll talk about it now. Because you may have noticed the eagle-eyed early viewers, the people that when it pops up on their timeline or
Y-
whatever, they're in
The
their
YouTube.
subscriptions tab. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
all
yeah.
that kind of stuff. I'll tell you what, I'm down with the kids, Marcel. You know me. Look at me talking modern lingo, right? When that happens, some people will be like, actually, okay, I know that's going to come at say 6. I'll save it. I'll set a reminder. So that's what was happening, right? About 20 minutes ago, I see my phone's ringing. It's Josh. I'm thinking, and Josh, by the way, just Josh Media, graphics guru, visual ninja, okay, superb. He
Yeah.
calls me. I'm thinking, what's going on here? Josh never calls me. He's more of a voice note guy, Marcel. I'm thinking, what's going on here? He calls me and just goes, yeah, deleted the stream.
Hmm?
I went, what? What are you talking about? He went, yeah, deleted it. Accident. So, and I was like, what? He went, yeah, I've put the new one up, but it's yesterday's. It's yesterday's one. I went, oh. And then he just started giggling. He was like Muttley from Wacky Races. He had that proper laugh. Couldn't believe it.
He hijacked the stream the other day as well.
He
When we
does
was
it.
talking about, yeah, he's this
He
mysterious man.
he is a menace to
Yeah.
society. I'll put it out there. That's what he is. Okay, and I know that will come back to bite me, no doubt about it. He's the graphics, so he controls all of this. So if we suddenly go just dramatically off the air, you know, who did
Yeah,
it.
no, it's
You know, who
100% we
did it.
know who done it.
Exactly. But midweek settings, final game of the season approaches with United's trip to Crystal Palace on Sunday. But as the season closes, the transfer window opens. We're getting closer and closer to the beginning of the transfer window, which does actually officially open on June 10th. We're
Yeah.
also getting closer and closer to Erik Ten Hag's era at Manchester United beginning. So merge those two together. What do you have? You get Manchester United linked with every Ajax player or player that's played under Erik Ten Hag in the past. So that's what we're going to talk about, Marcel, this evening.
Yeah.
But before that, I will be polite. How are you doing, Marcel?
I'm good, thank you. Like I was saying to you before off air, this is the first time that I think I've been speaking to the United View family since Holland trip. So just well rested and just excited about all the transfer news. A lot of speculation if Ten Hag's already come to the country, if he was already a mutual agreement happened, if he's come officially with us, if he's even going to be at the Crystal Palace game. So a lot of
Yeah.
things, speculation around the club transfers, if the young transfers even happened. I've been reading so much Owen about the club recently, so now really interesting. But now I'm well, thank you, and I hope you're well as well.
I'm great. This season's nearly over. Thank God. Ten Hag's era is nearly upon us. Thank God. I tell you what I did enjoy as well, Marcel. I've mentioned it several times on a couple of the streams recently. So the vlog, if you haven't seen it on the channel, it's well worth a watch. The entire vlog sort of, capturing the entire trip to Amsterdam. And there were so many moments in that involving yourself that really made me laugh. One, when you were in the wrong line at the airport and you had to go under the little thing and broke
Yeah,
it
yeah.
and then put it back
I
on.
can't believe I done that, Owen. I can't believe I done
Another
that.
one where you're just about to get on the plane and you can't find your boarding pass.
Oh my days, it was a calamity that day.
And then the best one is when you answer the door to the We Talk Ajax guys, and Ajax the first person to come in. And no joke, you answer the door like that, open, and you go.
And I go missing. But there was the other guys are just as tall as him. Well, not as tall, but just as tall as him. I just went missing from the shot as soon as he touched
It was. Oh, that did tickle me. That did tickle me.
it.
But
It was funny.
let's talk about transfers. Let's talk about Lisandro Martinez, another Ajax player. Yes, we spoke this morning about about being linked with Timber. We also spoke yesterday about being linked with Anthony. We know we're linked with Frenkie de Jong, former Ajax player. Now Lisandro Martinez. So Lisandro Martinez has been added to the list of Manchester United targets ahead of Erik Ten Hag's arrival as manager. He's seen as an ideal player in the Dutchman's 1 versus 1 defensive tactics. That comes from Mike McGrath. It also says here that Ten Hag believes he was one of the keys to his successes at Ajax. With 3 seasons left on his contract, he would be expected to cost at least 30 million euros. What are your thoughts on United being linked with him and also being linked with every former or every Ajax player, it feels like?
It's too much. I feel like surely this is just, poor journalism. Somebody just trying to get in, with any kind of news first, or just trying their luck, just scattergun approach. We can't get every single Ajax player, and this doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, we have to pick one or two key players that we think can add to our particular team. Timber would be that player in the defensive line. And then I think that's it for you for in terms of Ajax defenders. Then you want to look maybe to the midfield area. Um, Martinez for 30 million is all right, I guess. We're talking about doing astute signings, signings that are not 90, 150 million. It's something that you can add to the squad. But, we've got a couple players, I think, that will be coming back or that could be utilized instead of, Martinez for that kind of price. And has he got that kind of caliber and quality? Is that bit of a risk there? So there's a few question marks, but I think there's other options and better options in that Ajax team even. So I
Yeah,
would
I
say
mean
no.
that's the interesting thing. Is that what you think it is then with all of this? Because as I mentioned, we've been linked with De Jong, former player,
Yeah.
Timber, current player, Anthony, current player, now Martinez. Is it just lazy journalism, or is there something in there? Is there at least one of them that we're probably interested, or a couple of them?
I think Timber for sure. So one of them, yes. But it's speculation with the biggest club in the world, in my opinion. It's really interesting news. Ajax have performed very well, for the last few seasons. And it's an opportunity for them to step up. This is guaranteed going to be a step up for any player that's been playing really well in the Ajax team. So it would just be interesting to see any of the Ajax players come and try and do and emulate what they've done in the Dutch league. But I only think it's going to be one or two. I think at most it's 5 signings, and 2 of them would be something that have a bit of the Ten Hag DNA, if you want, for want of a better word. So I don't think Martinez for 30 million would be something that we're really looking at. I think Timber he was an outstanding player on the pitch when we went to go and see him. With the United View family went to go and see him. So I don't think Martinez would be someone that would be looking at, to be honest with you. And I think it does sound a bit like lazy journalism, if I'm honest with you, Owen.
It does a little bit. I mean, maybe look, if we, for whatever reason, miss out on Timber, say he goes to Bayern Munich, then you
Yeah,
could see maybe them go, okay, but maybe we'll go to Martinez. But also, you do have to remember that there is another club involved in this one. I know that it's not out of the realm of possibility for Ajax to sell a load of players and rebuild. That's what they do every single season. They've done it
yeah,
before. But to lose the manager, then like possibly we're talking like 3 or 4 players or two or three players just to United, let alone Gravenberch to Bayern Munich, let alone who else would go, right? There's been links of Haller going to, some of them were saying like Dortmund and stuff like that, but
yeah,
still,
yeah,
like
yeah,
there's
yeah.
a possibility they can go elsewhere too. They're not going to lose half their team and their manager in one summer. I mean, there's a rebuild and then there's a rebuild, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, did they lose something similar in that 18-19 season? Was it like De
Who did they
Jong, De
lose?
Ligt,
Yeah, Ziyech, I think as well.
yes, yes. So it was kind of, I'm not maybe 3 key players, world class players there that
Yeah.
of high level footballers. Let me not say world class, but high level players that left, but not 5 and 6 that I've been watching and listening to.
I think that's, like I said, I think it's lazy journalism, and surely, I mean, we know that United are going to sign people this summer. Surely we're going to sign people outside of that Ajax bubble, right? When
Yeah,
when are we going to be linked? Well, I mean, I suppose technically that's the problem. Even the players that are actually outside of this Ajax bubble at the moment still have that link back to Ajax in Frenkie de Jong, right? Because people go, well, you're interested in Frenkie de Jong he's from Barca, but it's like, yeah, but it's Ajax.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
still Ajax. When are we going to be linked with someone that isn't from Ajax?
I don't know. I don't, I don't know. Well, actually, maybe I'm just jumping the gun there because Declan Rice, Neves, Ruben Neves, someone that we've been linked to as well at times throughout the season. Tariq Lamptey at times in the middle of the season, anyway. But in terms of this current era right now, the last few months, Ten Hag, we will go in Ten Hag mad right now, and that's why every 2 minutes it's a player that understands his game.
Sufan B says, at this rate, we'll be linked to Ajax and Papamento soon. I tell you what, Ajax could do a job at centre back,
Yeah,
right? I didn't see him in person, but I'm telling you, he could do a job at centre
in
back.
goal for sure.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Sufan also says, will Marcel be at the 100K party? Will you be there,
Yes, man.
Marcel? Of
100%,
course.
Sufyan. 100%,
Of
Sufyan.
course. Of course, he's going to be there. And you can also be at the 100K party. The link is in the description box below. Tickets are still available. It's the
Yep.
100K/1 year birthday party. Flex is even going to be doing DJing. Thing is, like, I don't even know what that means. Like, I'm so out of it with music or whatever. I was saying earlier to him, I was like, if we sign Timber, should you play Pitbull? And he just gave me a death stare. He was like, he's like, no. So
Uh,
that's going to be a barrel of laugh. No, but it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun to interact with everyone, see everyone, and just celebrate. You know, what a crazy year, right? So it's going to be a lot of fun.
I've never been to Tucker Social before, but I think it's predominantly
Me
football,
neither.
nice bar area there. So I'm excited, man. And, it should be fun.
Yes, exactly. It should be a lot of fun. Let's talk about Eric Ten Hag's shortlist, by all accounts, because, again, this comes from one big story from Mike McGrath. And he says that Eric Ten Hag would ideally like a quick centre-back, but other priorities include 2 midfielders, in particular a number 6 orchestrator to build attacks from. In attack, Ten Hag would like a striker, but much will depend on how big his budget will be. Manchester United's recruitment team are expected to meet later this week to plan for the summer. So another transfer meeting is going to be taking place. Of course, one took place last week, right after that Ajax game. John Murtough flew over to Amsterdam and had that conversation that included Mitchell van der Gag and Steve McLaren involved in that one as well. But what do you think of those positions when it comes to his priorities? He's saying a quick centre-back, 2 midfielders, particularly that number 6, which I think is where that Frenkie de Jong one really comes from, and a striker. So that's 4 players there.
Yeah. Alarm bells already, though.
Crucial, isn't it?
Alarm bells already, though, man. Why are we not talking about fullbacks? A big part of his game is the fullbacks, and then.
Well, ideally, he'd replace the whole team. Let's be honest.
Yeah. No, you're right, Owen. But not even one fullback. Not even a right back or the right back. When we need a right back, Owen. We need a right back. I mean, 2 midfielders. If you had 2 midfielders to the current crop of players that we have now, how many midfielders does that mean you have? I think you might have to get rid of one. And I'm including the players that are leaving as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're talking about, if he's saying 2 midfielders, I mean, because we're losing Matic, we're losing Pogba.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mata as well.
Mata. We should be looking for that sort of, we're looking for that defensive midfielder anyway, irrespective of those players we're leaving. We'd be looking for them because we were looking for them last year.
Yeah.
But also, I suppose you have to be somewhat realistic, right? 4 players is usually what United does, maybe in a transfer window. And almost every position is a priority, but we can't do it all in one go, can we?
No, we definitely can't. But, you got Scott there. You've got Fred. You've got, I think, is Andre Pereira coming back? I'm hearing Andre. Journalism again. I don't know if this is, but I'm hearing Andre.
What a weird one with him, isn't it? It's so weird because
he's going to be there for the preseason.
He was at Flamengo, and they've agreed a deal back in January. And then it kind of felt like, I don't know, Flamengo went,
don't fancy him.
Cold feet. Yeah. Cold feet. And then they just ends up back at United. So, preseason Perlo.
Yeah. He's going to be there for the preseason and play Stallion, but that's about it. So I don't. And then James Garner, does he come back into the fray? Is he part of the squad this season coming up? That's maybe 4 that I've named already. And then Donny's going to be a big part of the system for sure next season. That's 5. Then Bruno makes 6. So if you had 2 more there, that's 8. So we've got to get rid of maybe 1 or 2, and you got to make a choice between whether you're going to keep Scott or Fred. I think you can't. I don't think you can have both.
One of them's going to get sold.
I think
what are Scott or Fred's going to get sold?
I think Scott. I think one of Scott or Fred can get sold. Man, to be honest with you can't have both. If you're gonna add 2 more. If that is correct, what they're saying there, Owen, if you're going to add 2 more, I think you've got to choose between Scott or Fred.
What? And one of them has to go?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, one of them has to go, man. We're both of them don't really have what Ten Hag wants, to be honest with you. So one of them, but they do add something to the team. So, but it's both kind of similar at the same time. So I would say one of them's got to go.
I would be willing to bet good money they will both be there at the beginning of next season.
Oh no, you're possibly right.
I would be stunned if they sold, particularly both of them. I think both of them. And it's not to say because sometimes when you say stuff like this, people are like, what you're saying, they're both good enough. No, not necessarily. Maybe we should be looking at higher quality players, but I think with the mass exodus that we're looking at when it comes to, say, Pogba, say Matic, say Mata, who knows? It could, whether another player could be involved in that. I would be very, very surprised if both of them went. But I do think that when it comes to those positions, two midfielders are at least needed. Again, that defensive midfielder, irrespective of the outgoings, was been needed. We've been looking for that for years anyway. I do think we need a more progressive midfielder to replace Paul Pogba anyway.
Yeah.
The quick centre back, we know we need another centre back. We do.
Yeah.
The question really is that even if we got that centre back in, whether it was Timber, whether it's Martinez, whether it's someone else, whether it's Pau Torres,
De Ligt.
He's going to sign a new contract at
Apparently he's going to
Juventus.
sign a new
They
contract.
reckon.
Yeah, apparently I'm hearing that.
Yeah. Even if it was that, I mean, the centre back situation is interesting because that quick centre back plus Rafael Varane would probably be your two centre backs, but that centre back pairing isn't going to play for the majority of the season. Let's be honest, because we know Varane will be out for at least half that time.
Yeah.
So, what does that centre back pairing even look like then?
It's gonna be the number one favorite player in the club, Maguire.
No Lindelof. Do you reckon you not think that Ten Hag would look at Lindelof and go?
The Lindelof partnership in parts of the season last season was okay at times. It was all right. But I feel like all of the centre backs are going to be fighting for their position. They're going to have to show, qualities and show that they can play in the system. I think long term they all have to go, except for maybe Varane. For some reason, people are saying to me, Tuanzebe is going to go. And I don't know what you think on that, to be honest with you. And do you think he should go? Do you think he should stay? Do you think he can add something to the team?
The problem is you forget players like that are even at the club.
You
You do add in Phil Jones and Eric Bayer still there. I mean, the assumption is that they'll go, but you never know. Let's be honest. I wouldn't be totally shocked if the transfer window closes and at least one of them's still there. Plus, he said Tuanzebe, plus Mengi. Who knows what's going to happen with him?
Yeah.
Right.
Mengi's coming,
then you're looking at a United squad that's got how many centre backs have we got already?
But they're all like bang average. That's the problem.
Yeah,
like,
but that's what I mean. You can't pick. You can't actually pick between really any of them, apart from maybe Varane. But his injuries kind of bring him down into that into that level. So I can see why absolutely Ten Hag would be like, we need a centre back. But if you were United, I could understand United sort of pushing back a little bit, going, yeah, of course we get a centre back, but we've got to get rid of like at least three. At least three of them, right?
For sure. And if you're getting rid of three, then one has to come in for sure. Quick centre. Timber is bang on. You've got to go all out for Timber. I think he's absolutely quality. But then, I think you might even need another one. Or you do try and, play Mengi or Tuanzebe and try and cultivate them and improve their game. But I think, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm sorry to say this, but I wouldn't be surprised if we still have Maguire next season. So he's going to be in and around. Yeah, he's going to be in and around the squad. So you've got quite a lot of centre-backs, like we were saying, that will just be around. And then your forward line, we do need a striker. We really need a striker. Ronaldo's not going to be able to play, and he's not going to want to be playing in Europa. Sorry, he's not going to want to be playing in Europa.
He's not going to want to pick up that trophy. He's never won it. He's never won it before.
That's a good point. Maybe in the quarterfinals and semis, he will show up. Yeah. But I don't think you're going to want to be playing in the group Thursday, Saturday, or Thursday, Sunday, whatever it is. I don't think he's going to want to do that. So we need a forward as well. And it's got to be maybe not the 30 million price tag, but it's got to be a smart business. It has to be.
It's interesting as well that we talk about signings. So he's listed sort of 4 signings there, and plus maybe a striker. So actually 5. How many signings do you think we need in this transfer window coming up, and versus how many will we actually get in the transfer window?
I think it's 5+. I'd say 5 to be safe, but me, I'm optimistic, positive. I'd like to see 5+ signings coming through the door. I think it's 5. No, if it's 3, I'm going to be livid. If there's only 3 or 4 signings, I'll be like, what's this? You guys are not serious. I mean, you do count Donny maybe as a new signing if you want, and Martial, because they weren't really involved with the squad this season. So you can kind of maybe cheat and count them in
Martial,
there.
his injury issues, have you seen that at Sevilla? He's had like 3 injuries whilst he's been there, and that's since January.
Listen,
does he even want to be at United?
Yeah, I've since the beginning of the season, I think it was my very first interview with Flex. I've been saying he's no good anyway, to be honest with you. And so I don't even want to see him in the squad. But if Ten Hag wants them, then I want them. Then I want the player, and I will back the team and the squad and everything else. So, but at the end of the day, we need a striker, a Europa League striker, somebody that's got the caliber to play in that league and score goals and get us through the groups. And I want us to win that competition next season. That's what we should be looking at for. So it's got to be 5 signings to answer your question. How many do you think? How many do you think?
I've said I think 4 that we'll
Mhm.
get, because that's very. Look, I know there are a lot of changes at Manchester United at the moment, and I know specifically in that sort of transfer space at United, whether it's scouting, recruitment, negotiations, there's a lot of change. But
Yeah.
this is still Manchester United. We are still in a phase of transition, and Man United tend to sort of go around maybe 4 transfers per window usually.
Yeah.
There have been instances where that hasn't happened. I think back to Louis van Gaal's first season at United, and that summer transfer window was a madness, and we just went crazy. Specifically, in like the last couple of days, we went mental, getting
Yeah.
was it like Shaw, Falcao, Blind? They were all in like the last like day. It was It was crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't think that Ten Hag would go for that. From what we're hearing as well, he wants most of the business either close to being done or done by mid-July, something like that as well. He wants to be going on preseason tour with a lot of those players already integrated into the squad.
Yeah.
So I think 4, and I do think those 4 will probably be. He definitely wants 2 midfielders, so I think that's
What about a
half of
right
them.
winger? What about a right winger?
I think we will get a striker, because
Okay. Yeah.
from what people like Romano are saying, that Ten Hag said like it's a must. We need a striker, and I agree. We need a
Yeah.
striker.
We do.
Not
Yeah.
even
We do.
necessarily just for the Europa League, like you were saying. I think we just need a striker because we've seen it this season. I don't think that anyone can doubt that Ronaldo still, or can he do it? He absolutely did it this year in a really poor side, arguably the poorest
20
Man United
plus
side in Premier
goals.
League history. Exactly,
20
right? He can
plus
still
goals.
do it, but
Yeah.
he can't do it every game. And it doesn't necessarily mean he won't play every game. He'll still probably play the majority of games, but he just can't score every game. And if that's the
Yeah.
case, have someone in there that's going to score goals, reduce the burden. So we absolutely need a striker. So I think that's 2 midfielders, a striker, and I think that 4th will probably be that centre back, most likely Timber. That's what I'm thinking. More than that, I'm like you, would be really happy, because I think, all right, we're moving places, we're doing things, and there are going to be a lot of people leaving the club. But even though those people that used to take time on transfers are gone, it is still Man United. The budget isn't infinite. We are in the Europa League, so it makes it more difficult to get certain players. I think
Mm.
4, but like we were talking about before, right? When you're talking about the squad and all that, 5 subs next season. So you're going to
Yeah. Yeah.
need that squad of having more players available to change the game, right?
So we're basically asking Ten Hag to utilize our academy, which is for me feels like a plus. It's positive. There's a few academy players in there when that I think should be getting football or starts. So like you said, the 5 subs. Teams will be using the subs hopefully earlier, fresher players, faster game. Um, I think some of the academy players could step up.
Interesting.
Mhm.
If we're talking about those transfers, you're saying 5 plus, I'm saying 4.
Yeah.
If it came down to if you were, John Murtough, or you were Eric Ten Hag, or you were whoever, and they said, "Look, what is your number 1 priority position?" They said, "Well, we can definitely get this one done. The rest probably, but what's the first one? What's the priority position you go after first?"
CDM for sure. CDM for sure. That is such a big issue. We sometimes we're just stuck in our defensive line. We can't progress the ball properly. I mean, when the attack everywhere is shocking. Let me just
That's
put
the
that out
problem,
there.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everywhere is bad. So I can't even, I'm saying CDM and people were like, no, centre back, or the fullbacks. This is disgraceful. Or, we can't
Mm,
score enough goals without Ronaldo. There's just so many issues. But I
yeah.
think that CDM, progressing the ball through the thirds, carrying the ball out that defensive line, we got midfielders hiding at the moment, so it's just like we need a CDM, a proper CDM. So that I would say that's the number 1 position. What about yourself? What do you think?
It is really tough because, like you said, where do you start?
Yeah.
Like, where do you start? It's like putting one finger in a leak on the Titanic. The ship's still going
Yeah.
down. I probably would agree with you and say that defensive midfielder position. Although I might actually lean a little bit more into the striker position. Actually, the reason I say that is because I do feel that games this season we haven't won. Yes, you could talk about defensive issues. That's absolutely true. But there have been instances this season where I just think if we just had another striker just available, we probably would have got over the line in some of those games. Like I think about like when we played, like say Watford at home. If we just had another option, we'd have probably won that game, right?
Yeah.
I think that might be one of the key positions. But like you say, maybe he looks at Martial and says, "Oh, maybe he can be the option with Cristiano up front." Maybe he looks at Rashford and thinks, "Oh, I can put him as a striker." But I'd probably agree with you with the defensive midfielder just because we've needed that for such a long period of time. But do you think that defensive midfielder position? Do you think that's De Jong then? Do you think that's why all of that's going on? Why that's so key?
So it's only been recently that he's kind of been touted. You know, it was heavy beginning of the season, Declan Rice. You know, Edson Alvarez for me at one point. You know, funny enough, I never Ajax player, but you know,
just wait, give it a couple of days, Marcel. Honestly,
but you know, I don't know. It's a very key position, and Frenkie is somebody that I think can play it very well. Is he, you know, an out and out six? I think he can play 8 very well, you know, but I think he can do that 6 just exactly how Ten Hag would want it to be done. So I think, you know, you got to kind of go what's the price point? What, 70 mil? I think that's all right, to be honest with you. If it's 70, 60 mil, that's okay. For somebody that's definitely going to be able to play the style, it's guaranteeing you a level of quality there.
But how realistic is that transfer? Because me and Flex were talking about this morning. So the reports that were coming out last night were saying that obviously Barcelona have the financial issues. They can't afford basically to pay their salary of their players for in June. Basically, a similar position that they're in last year when the bill comes due at the end of June. What are we going to do? We can't afford to pay it. Players have to go so we can bring players in and so we can pay this bill. So that's where you would look at it and go, okay, that's where United are looking to pounce on this De Jong deal. The issue is that De Jong's like key priority is Champions League football.
Yeah.
If that's a deal breaker, we don't get him. Simple as.
That might just be with a lot of the players we're trying to look at. To be honest with you, they're all going to want to play in the best competition. So I don't know. I think he's got to be. I think he's the best that, you know, of a good bunch of options out there right now. It's just, I think he's different class. That would be a good signing. That's a good statement signing that, you know, you want, you know, a new style of football coming into the club. I think that's a good signing, you know, and if you have to go all out for that one, the priority signing, why not? CDM, you know, sorts a lot of issues, man.
You're concerned about the transfer fee with it, though? I mean, some people are saying 65 million euros, like for someone like De Jong, that might actually be a really good price. But in a transfer window, like we just discussed earlier, where we need 4 or 5 players, 65 million, it's a chunk out of the budget that we do need to spend elsewhere too.
Yeah, you're right. You know, you got James Garner and Kamara. You know, Kamara's on a free. You know, he was. You know, we had Kessie at the beginning of the season or June. You know, there was options. There was actually
and he's going to Barca.
Yeah. So there was options, Owen, but it's just like, you know, we haven't been proactive, and we'll have to pay the price for that. I mean, Declan Rice was never going to be an option, I don't think. You know, I'm hearing they want to sign an 8-year contract for him as well. You know, some unheard of kind of business there, you know, but I don't know. I just feel like, you know, there was other options, but if you want somebody that's going to be able to play exactly how Ten Hag wants, you're not, it's worth that price.
It's an interesting one because it would be somewhat of a statement signing, you would think, from United. Red Baron says, with the super chat, appreciate the contribution. Without a central defence midfielder, the blood does not flow to other parts of the body, the players. Nice little biological analogy from Red Baron there. There you go. I appreciate that. Took me back to school. I'm terrible in biology. I took it at A level and I dropped it after 1 year because I was rubbish at it.
I was alright at biology, but I was rubbish at chemistry and physics.
So that was the opposite. I could do chemistry, could not. Biology, I hated it. And even when I was doing my psychology degree, there's a part of it is biological psychology, and it's
Yeah,
basically just biology. I just could not be. No, way too scientific for me.
yeah.
No, like I remember dissecting a kidney or whatever in
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
these things. Oh, they stink.
And the heart and all of that, heart as well. I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
It's science
it
weren't that
won't for
interesting
me.
anyway. Yeah.
It won't for me. It must say it won't for me. But kids, if you are watching, study hard. Pay attention. You know, and all that kind of stuff. Like really motivating speech there I gave. When it comes to a striker, though, Darwin Nunez reportedly is an obvious candidate for big spending European clubs, but he'll be at the top end of the market. We spoke about certain transfers costing a lot of money, and whilst we might want the player, is it really a good economic deal for United? Is Nunez someone we should be looking at? And two, would you be concerned about how much that would cost?
I mean, it's a never big price for somebody that hasn't really, shocked the world for me. We want a target man, innit? And really, you want a target man. I feel like in
You want a
in
proper
Ten Hag,
nine?
yeah, or yeah, a proper night. Well, for the club anyway, I feel like you have to have a proper
Mm.
nine at Manchester United. Um, whoever Ten Hag wants, man. I don't like the price though. Because what you spending 75, 70 mil, and then what you've got to bring in another 4 players. What's the budget going to be? What if it's 150? Well, if it's 200, well, you haven't done yourself any favors with 75 mil on a striker. But if it's somebody that's going to be able to, score us a certain amount of goals, I've seen a few clips of him. That's about it, and it looks good from what I've seen. But
The
and
KG
he's
compilation.
tenacious. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
how you've
yeah.
been watching.
Yeah. He looks all right. He looks tenacious, aggressive. He's tall, he's physical, and I think that's what Ten Hag will want: somebody that can play back to goal. He doesn't look like he plays a lot of back to goal football. He likes to get beyond the lines and break lines. But I don't know, man. It's if that's what Ten Hag wants, I can only support what he wants, man. I mean, we're going for a complete rebuild. We're going for a complete new style of football. It is someone someone needs to be up there that can hold the ball though. From what I was
Mm.
seeing when I was out there in Holland,
Yeah,
somebody
that's
needs
what I
to
was
be able
going
to
to
get hold
say.
of the ball.
That was really interesting when you were in the Johan Cruyff Arena.
Yeah,
When Flex was sort of coming to you during the match, you were saying the thing I found the most interesting is when you were talking about Haller and you were talking also about Tadic, and you
yeah.
were sitting there, you're like, my mind's blown because
Yes, yeah.
I just didn't think they were capable of any of this. You know what I
Honestly,
mean?
the rotation of the rotation is just crazy, and even though the target man he has a job to do up front, he still has to go and defend and chase the ball and go defend the other way. And you see top players like Mane, going or chasing back. You see Salah, like you see the top teams. Man City, all of them work hard. You see De Bruyne chasing. You see, that kind of understanding and feel for the game, the responsibility for the team is there in his team and in his system. So we're going to need a player that's going to be willing to do the hard miles as well. So, but it has to be someone that is clever. It has to be someone that's ready, a presence to hold the ball. People say Martial's got that ability back to goal, and I think he does. So
That's what
again,
Dasher just says right there. Martial can hold the ball up.
oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we might all the answers might, or a couple of the answers anyway, Owen, might already be within the club.
Stopped yourself. Stopped
Yeah.
yourself very closely there. Some of the answers might be there.
Some of the answers might be there, but I don't know, man. It's definitely got to have somebody that is a target man for me. That's what looks like suits the system, and he might adapt it anyway for the Premier League. So you don't know. That's what's so exciting about the window and just him coming into the club.
That is a really good point, actually, because I think we've seen it with a lot of coaches, especially these two big successful ones like in Pep and Klopp, that do have a very defined way that they play, clear philosophy, clear tactics. When they've come to the Premier League, they tried to lift what they were doing in previous leagues, like, for
It
instance,
doesn't
both in the
work.
Bundesliga. They tried to
Yeah,
lift it, and it wasn't a complete fit. They had to
yeah,
tweak
yeah,
things. They had to
yeah,
change things. So, and Eric Ten Hag, interestingly, in interviews, I said, "Oh, when Pep first came to the Premier League, he had to change things because of the physicality of the league." So clearly, he must be aware. So he must be thinking, or surely one would hope that he's not naive enough to think of what I'm doing in the Eredivisie. I can just plop that in the Premier League. I've got better players at United, maybe. and it's just going to be better and it's just going to work. And I think you're right. I do think that he might tweak some things in his system, and maybe we'll be quite surprised by that.
He has to, again, another player that I've heard that we're linked with Kante.
What do you think about that? That generated a lot of debate when we were talking about this the other day.
It did. I don't know. I think he's a good player. He's a good player, man. Oh, and he's a very good player, and he wins trophies every club he goes to. That's just what Kante does. Yes,
Would you
he's
sign him?
declining. Pardon?
Would you sign him for Manchester United if he became available in the transfer window? Would you sign N'Golo Kante?
Yes, I would. I would, man.
Why?
He has that. So he has that spirit about him. The hard work. He gets about the pitch. He is injury prone. It's a never injury prone player. But I don't think.
Does that not concern you?
Yeah,
Does that not
does
concern you
concern
though?
me. But I think the price point's 30 million. Just like we're looking at on the tagline is. I think it's not going to be a big price. It's not going to be expensive transfer to bring Kante. So,
but wages though. We're looking
Yeah,
at wages.
true.
And also, would you rather spend 30 million on a younger, developing player than a player who's 31, injury prone? I mean, some people are saying, he's not really that injury prone or whatever. I would argue, look at the amount of times he's actually started games this season as
Yeah.
well. And also as well, that is a signing that Manchester United would have done the last 5 years. Kante becomes available. Kante, what's he won? He's won everything. He's won the Premier League with 2 different clubs. He won the Champions League. He's won the World Cup. He's a great player. He's 31. He's got injuries. Who cares? He's Kante. Everyone knows he's Kante. He's great. And then he comes
like a
in, and maybe he would come in and he would play well. But I guarantee a season in, 18 months in, we'd be saying, gets injured a bit, getting on a bit. And we'd be having a conversation of like 18 months in, we've got to be looking for that player to replace Kante. Who's going to be the player who's going to be replacing him for 10 years? Why don't we just not bring him in and find that player now? Why don't we find the next Kante?
No, I could just hear the screams right now. Just people saying, "What are you talking about?" But he's like a Schweinsteiger in my mind. He's like a Matic in my mind, where it's like we should have had him a few years ago, just like you said, Owen. But if he becomes available, why would you say no? This guy is immense.
Well, the reason I just said. That's why I'd say no. I'd say he's old. He's injury prone. It's the same type of player we were buying before.
I just think he's just a different level. It's one of the best CDMs in the world. Just different class. So, but like you said, past this time, do you find? And we're looking at Frenkie de Jong, someone that's younger coming into their prime, and so it makes perfect sense why you would say no. But even with all of that we just said, I'm still going to say yes.
Yeah. No, I think that it would be different if we had a really functionally operational midfield and a successful team anyway that was competing. And maybe we did just need a player that could drag us over the line for the next 2 years. Then I would say, well, that's a little bit different. If we were 3rd or 4th and you go, tell you what, get Kante in for a couple of years. We've already got this defense midfielder, but Kante can kind of help with all of that process. I'd say, yeah, because that's a low risk signing there. But during a rebuild, which at the same time we're saying, forget everything we've done in the past, forget what we've been doing in the transfer market and all this kind of stuff for the last 5 years. If then this summer we sign Kante, I'd be like, Bill Murray. I'd be like, it's Groundhog Day again. What are we doing? I mean, that's what it would that's what it feels like.
I wouldn't put him. So in terms of the 10, if you go back to the Ten Hag shortlist, I'm not putting him as number 1. That's for sure. But he's in that specialist CDM category that we're talking about, and that's an important, and he's part of the number 1 important position that I'm talking about, CDM. So, if you put him in a CDM shortlist and you consider him in there that way, I would put him maybe number 3 or number 4 to consider. Maybe Ruben Neves above him, Frenkie de Jong above him, and Edson Alvarez above him. So, but if he becomes available for anything between 15 to 35 to 30 mil, and you don't want to spend the 70, 80 mil on a Frenkie de Jong, why would you say no to N'Golo Kante? Somebody that's won it, that wins trophies at every single. He won trophies at Leicester, goes to Chelsea, wins trophies at Chelsea. Is at France, wins trophies there. I don't understand why you don't want to win a player that wins knows how to win trophies. Owen,
I would be like, if N'Golo Kante became available for 15 million, that's like having a 4K TV in front of you and them going, how much do you want for it? And they go, £5. You'd go, what's wrong with it? You go, what's wrong
Yeah,
with it?
yeah,
There's got to be
yeah.
something wrong with it for that kind of price.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
that'd be perfect.
Nate H says, this story that Ten Hag wants to build around Sancho, McTominay, Elanga and Rashford is absolute rubbish. Typical English media making things up. Nate H not happy with that.
I agree with him.
Couple of other super chats from Sully says, no to Kante, respectfully agree with Owen. Let's find our Kante. Appreciate the contribution from Sully. Nate H says, stop signing players past their prime. That's my concern with it. But look, I could understand that people have different opinions. That's what it's all about. It's all about discussion. What did you think, by the way, Marcel? I don't know if you saw these quotes earlier on in the week when Ten Hag was having the interview. This is kind of put a bit of a full stop on the whole, is Ronaldo going to stay? Is he going to leave? How very complimentary he was about Cristiano Ronaldo, where he said, look, of course I want him to stay at Manchester United. He's a giant. His stats are still incredible. And then prior to that, Ronaldo had come out and said, yeah, I'm really looking forward to playing under Eric Ten Hag. You know, I think he's a great manager, blah, blah, blah. How many goals do you reckon Ronaldo could get under Ten Hag next season?
25. Is this on all comps? All comps? Are you talking about?
Well, yeah, let's say all comps, yeah.
25. Yeah, 25 in all comps. He's still an elite striker. But he's got to pick his football matches, though. He's got to pick his games because, you know, there's some games that I just think he was a bit out of his depth, you know, last season. Well, sorry, we're still in this season, you know, this season. So, you know.
Don't remind me.
Yeah. So, yeah, 25 all comps for sure. Still an elite goal scorer. You know, was offering a lot of hard miles this season. 25. What about yourself? How many do you think contributing next season?
I think he can get more goals than he got this season. I really do.
How, it was 23 this year? 23?
I'm not sure how many he got in, but his Champions League goals for us this season was pretty ridiculous. It must be said. And how many has he got in the league? It's like nearly 20, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nearly
like
20, man. It's like 18, 19 or something.
Yeah. So I think he'll get more goals for us next season because I think there'll be less pressure on him. Hopefully, that would be my hope, and that you would be hoping that. Because especially in the last, couple of months, in 2022, he's basically had to create a lot of chances himself.
Yeah.
He's been scoring. He even scored a free kick.
Yeah.
When's the last time that happened? We're
Yeah.
scoring from corners or all that kind of stuff. It's not as if like he's been doing tap-ins recently. I think he'll be getting more chances, hopefully. I do want to talk about Paul Pogba as well, by the way. If not that people probably really care that much, but the Mirror's reporting that PSG have offered Paul Pogba a deal worth £350,000 a week. PSG believe Pogba could help them finally conquer Europe. And this came from Damasio yesterday, which kind of made me laugh. Paul Pogba has decided he will leave Manchester United. Well, yes. I mean, that's hardly breaking news.
Yeah.
When it comes to possible destinations, Juventus are waiting to catch up with Pogba, and the player has to decide whether to accept a lower offer than other offers on the table. Do you even really care about the Pogba discussion at this point?
At this point, no. I'm glad to see him gone. I wanted him to stay. We had the speculation whether he's going to sign a new contract midway through the season, beginning of the season. I was adamant I wanted him to stay. I think he could have offered a lot for us, in the future. Has he really done it through his tenure at the club? No. But I don't feel like he had a
for you then.
Yes.
When did that change? When did that change for you going, I want him to stay and then I don't want him to stay? Was there a specific point?
There wasn't a specific performance. It was just once I'm seeing him drag his heels on it. The winter period's coming. You haven't agreed a contract. You haven't signed the contract. You're waiting. This is still one of the biggest clubs in the country, in the world. You just sign the contract. We're gonna finally get a manager that's gonna help play and add to your style. For me, I don't think any of the managers have really got the best out of him and really have a style that gets the best out of him. Previous managers I'm talking about.
How do you get the best out of him though?
Pardon?
How do you get the best out of him, though? Yeah.
A CDM. You need a CDM next to him. You need somebody that is an out-and-out CDM and allow him to do the box-to-box role and just play in that right defensive mid-pocket, but be able to drive forward with the ball. He needs assurances behind him, someone that can protect the back four properly. He's not somebody that's very competent at that. He's not good at that. So he needs someone. He can do the defensive work, but he's almost like a box-to-box. Lots of class, lots of ability. Kante. Funny enough, we're talking about Kante. Kante next to him allows him to express himself and play his game. So
Don't say
no,
we
I'm
should sign
saying,
Kante to
I'm
keep
just saying,
Pogba.
I'm
Don't
just
say we
saying,
should sign Kante to keep Pogba.
I'm
Oh,
just saying, I'm just saying, Owen. I'm just saying. But
no, I think yeah, it's curious because I think chances are he's going to go to Juventus. I think
yeah,
that's interesting because by all accounts, he didn't want to stay at United, or he's keeping his options certainly open with United because he thought, I'm 29, it's my last big contract, plus I want to win things. I don't see why you would go to Juventus at this point to be like, okay, yeah, because like Serie A is not a given at this point. It looks like AC
yeah,
Milan are going to win it this season. Season prior was Inter Milan. Juventus are way off it when it comes
yeah,
to
yeah,
competing for the title. I know when he was there, they win it every single year. That ain't happening anymore. Certainly, Juventus are not going to win the Champions League. They are way off it when it comes to that
yeah,
as
yeah.
well. And dropping Paul Pogba into that, I don't think necessarily changes that much. I don't think that it's Juventus would have won Serie A this season if they'd had Paul Pogba. They had Cristiano Ronaldo last season. They still finished
Ex-
fourth.
Exactly. I
So
mean,
I don't see it.
he's wasted his career. I mean, when he looks back in his career, he had so much potential. He could have produced so much more. I just think he just go into wherever can take him at this point. At least he's not going to City. I think he would have been
Yeah.
crazy at City. So,
You reckon he would
but
have
I
thrived
don't care.
there? That was quite an interesting one as well because I was a bit like I mean, I could see it at the time. I could see it happening or whatever. And like you, I am glad that he didn't go. I think those people are saying, "Oh, it wouldn't have bothered me." I think that's a lie because it always does, right? It has to.
Yeah, yeah.
It has to bother you.
At
But
first, I was like, it doesn't, but then now it's like,
well, especially like look, I could understand it from his perspective of if you want to win things, go to City. You probably win the league.
yeah, yeah,
You'll get far in competition certainly. And the thought that really got me was that can you imagine if he wins the Premier League in a Man City shirt? And he's doing like ask Arsenal fans how it felt to give a guard of honor to Robin van Persie. Ask how that felt. And then can you imagine? Could you imagine if that happened at Old Trafford?
yeah,
Because
no.
that's what it was. It was at the Emirates when that happened. Can you
Yeah, yeah,
imagine
yeah.
if that happened at Old Trafford and we gave a guard of honor to Man City next season and Paul Pogba's in that line?
Listen. He brings so much drama that a lot of the fans hate him anyway. So they wouldn't have cared. That would have fueled their hate for him anyway. Seeing him at Old Trafford, guard of honor, I think that would have fueled their hate for him anyway. I'm just glad that he's gone now. He's dragged his heels for signing one of the best clubs with in the world. We're starting a rebuild. It's finally a progressive manager. Why wouldn't you want to sign on the dotted line? Hurry up. Was my attitude halfway through the season. But now he doesn't want to go. Goodbye. I'm glad he's gone.
I remember you saying to Flex, I think it was when you were in the studio with him, that you thought that he gave up when he came off against Liverpool and
Yes.
that was it.
Yes.
Could you even again, if he decided, oh yeah, actually, I've spoken with Eric. I tell you what, that contract that was on the table, yeah, I might sign that now. Could you
Mm.
ever forgive that of like when? And it's a lot to say that a player just wasn't even that injured and he came off, but it was so bizarre, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He just stopped
Oh,
and went, "I got to come off."
yeah, yeah. Weird. Weird. He didn't even try and give it a go, like for a few minutes. I've seen Rooney go down the tunnel and come back out, and he's been injured. He looked like he was fit, like done. Rooney's walking off
Yeah, I
upset.
remember that.
Then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, he comes back out the tunnel. He wants to play. He wants to play for the club. So I just don't
Mm.
understand. But then you're asking me, would I forgive a player that's just done the dramas that Pogba's just done?
Yeah.
Um, Listen, man, you gotta forgive and forget, man. You can't be holding grudges.
You've got to be bitter, Marcel. Never forget. Always hold a grudge.
No, because I would
Contribution
like to
here
think.
from,
Oh,
how do you even say that?
yeah, yeah, the Daka
Daka
Laka
Daka.
Daka.
But I appreciate the
Um,
contribution. There you go. Speaking of midfielders, talk about James Garner. So last night, of course, did you see that penalty shootout last night, by the way?
no, no, I didn't. What
Oh,
happened?
it was brilliant. It was a really
Yeah,
good game between Forest and Sheffield United. Forest went through. To be fair, Forest didn't actually play that well at all. And it was surprising because they've played so well this season. They played well in the first leg. Sheffield United probably played better on the night, but Forest went through on penalties. Their goalkeeper made some proper saves, was a really, really good match. But obviously, Forest does contain James Garner, and a lot of people have
yeah,
been saying, oh, they want him to come back into the squad next season.
he needs
Um,
to.
Samuel Luckhurst has said that if Nottingham Forest are promoted to the Premier League, a conversation is expected as to whether James Garner stays for a season of regular Premier League football. So my question to you, Marcel, then is if Forest get promoted, which is a big if, this is what the player final to do, but if they do get promoted, should he be in the Man United squad or should he be in the Nottingham Forest squad? Because he would then most likely have a full season of Premier League first team football where he's playing nearly every game.
Yeah, I doubt. I'll be very optimistic and hopeful if I say he's going to be involved in 15 plus games, 20 plus games for Man United next season. Um, but I feel like he's a good addition to the squad. I mean, you know, he's a number 6 in my mind, but Nottingham Forest would say that he's an 8. I think he's been playing in the 8 for majority of the season with them. I think you got to stay at Forest, to be honest with you. Just one more season. Let's see how you fare in the Premier League. Let's see your level, and then come and join the squad. Because, like you said, I doubt Scott or Fred leave, and that's going to be they're going to be fill-in players or squad players that can play in the 6, cover the 8, play or cover the 8, play in the 6. So maybe one more season and Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you look at what it can do for a player, say like Conor Gallagher is a great
Yeah,
example at Palace.
yeah,
Now, chances are he's going to go back to Chelsea in the summer, but that's almost like a new signing at this point because he's played that good. He'd
yeah.
be a player that Chelsea, if he wasn't a Chelsea player, they might be looking at going, actually, should we probably make an offer for him?
On offer for him. Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that if they do get promoted, which to be honest, I would probably back them in that playoff final against Huddersfield, considering how they've been playing this season. Forest, I would back them to go up, and I think that's a great story as well. Such a historic football club, Brian Clough, all that kind of stuff. So I would like to see him in the Premier League, and if so, then I think he probably should stay because I think that's invaluable, isn't it? A full season of regular first team Premier League football. Like you said, he might be involved at United next season. If Forest don't go up and he goes back to United, he might be involved. And you never know what can happen in football. There can be injuries or the manager can back you. And who knows? He might force his way into the first team squad and he might get a bit lucky and whatever happens, happens. But it's a far safer and more secure option for me that he would play a full season of Premier League football. And then if he's thriving, look, puts a clause in there that if he's thriving in January, you can bring him back. Who's to say you can't do that as well? So
it needs to be a Premier League loan, Owen. It needs to be a Premier
I
League
agree.
one. Yeah, it needs to be a Premier League one. If Gallagher's gone, I don't think he will fill that void. But Crystal Palace, there's maybe a vacancy there. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a possibility, certainly. Super chat from Zachary says 15 games for United would be better than 38 for Forest. Learn our system and how Eric Ten Hag coaches. If he won't, then send him back. Interesting. I mean, look, he might be there anyway for the preseason, certainly. And maybe Eric Ten Hag will then make a judgment call on that. Maybe he goes away with United on tour and he does really well. And Eric goes, actually, you know what? We were going to give him back to Forest, but no point. When it comes to that over preseason, certainly. Speaking of that as well, Dean Henderson, possible outgoings. Now, James Ducker from The Telegraph has said it remains to be seen if Manchester United would consider a permanent sale for Dean Henderson if an inviting offer is made, but a loan is considered more likely. He still has 3 years to run on his contract worth £110,000 a week and could cost in excess of 30 million. I think it's likely that Henderson's going to go in the summer, but do you think it's going to be a loan or do you think it's going to be permanent?
It's going to be permanent, man. I didn't want him to go, This is going to be controversial, Owen, but I think De Gea should have gone. And Dean Henderson should have been in there. Dean Henderson should have been in there, Owen. I'm telling you. You lot will see it one day, but it's what it is, man. We're stuck here with De Gea in goal.
You say stuck here like it's a bad thing.
No, okay. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. He's world class at stopping shots, but you need someone that's going to come off their line. You need somebody that's going to be able to pass the ball. You need someone that's going to be able to communicate with their back four.
I agree with you.
That.
I agree with you with that. My thing is with this, especially this season. So I see people talking about the Brentford goalkeeper and talking about the Brighton goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And look, the Brighton goalkeeper against us made a couple of good saves. Good for
Yes.
him. But I guarantee you, if you put the Brentford goalkeeper or the Brighton goalkeeper in the Manchester United squad this season, we would have conceded at least 15 more goals, minimum 15 more goals, because some of the saves that De Gea's made this season, they don't make.
Yeah.
No chance.
world class, and that's why I'm giving, the United View family have been saying, "Oh, what are you talking about?" Everyone's been saying, "What are you talking about?" No problem. One season, guys. It's gonna be. I'm just having him. I'm gonna see him for one season, maybe two, but we need to change it up now. Okay, we were talking about old players that have been around and they haven't been performing well. De Gea's been one of them that have been performing well. So that's why you give him the extra 1 or 2 seasons. But beyond that point, you can't go any further than beyond that for me. So yeah.
So if you were Eric Ten Hag and you were taking preseason and you had Henderson and De Gea there, Henderson would be your number one, is what you're saying.
Not for this season, no. Not for this season, no. I'm gonna
Not for the season coming up. You would stick with De Gea.
for the season coming up, I would stay with the hair. But for the long term, we gotta change it, man. How can nobody
So is a
see
loan
this?
not a possibility then? Is a loan not a possibility? They said, look, a loan's more likely. He's got 3 years left on his contract. He could go maybe to Newcastle. I don't know. Maybe he goes on loan somewhere else. It's a World Cup year, so
Yeah.
he has to be playing if he's got any chance of making the England team, let alone squad. Maybe what is it out of the realm of possibility he could go away for a season and then maybe he comes back and maybe that conversation about De Gea and Henderson's a bit bigger.
Well, let's see. You never know. The hair might be a success, and he might be able to adapt. It's very hard to adapt your style of football, though. I think like 30, 31. But I don't know. I just don't think Henderson's been promised football. Under Ollie, he was kind of looking like he was there, and then we kind of went back to the De Gea for a while. So I think he's just got to go now. We've messed him around a bit too much, and it's just kind of been yes or no. We need a player that Ten Hag would want, a goalkeeper that Ten Hag would want, and then we need to stick with De Gea. He's going to guarantee you world class saves, like a lot of people have been saying. But I just think, after another season or two, both goalkeepers should be gone after about 2 or 3 seasons.
I think it is interesting because I think you're right in the sense of De Gea will be asked to do things next season that potentially he's not the best at or not comfortable with.
Yeah.
And maybe if he's making mistakes or it's just not working or whatever it may be, then that's a conversation to be had. I just feel if anyone's earned the benefit of the doubt, it's probably him. And as we've said a million times before, we talked about priority positions, right? We never brought up goalkeeper. We never brought up goalkeeper earlier.
Yeah. I know. But by the way, we haven't even mentioned his wages. He's on these wages and he can't even do certain things that other keepers can do. And they're on half his wages.
Well, you're talking about wages, though. You talk about Henderson, backup goalkeeper, more than 100 grand a week.
Yeah, listen,
That's crazy.
Ed Woodward has been a disaster for this club. So, in the next 5 years, we're going to see a structure. We need a wage structure. We need a proper kind of system in terms of, but he's on 300. He's on almost 4. I don't even know what he's on, but it's just, it's a silly number. I know that much, and it's, we can't have that in the club, man. He doesn't even do much in terms of, coming off the line, like I was saying, and all the other things.
Interesting stuff. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Of course, it's Europa League final tonight, and we do have a player involved. So good luck to Ahmad. Can you imagine if Ahmad goes out on loan to Rangers and he wins more trophies than we have this season? Can you imagine?
Would you play him as a right winger? Do you think he was like? What did you think of his performance in the Champions League game against Young Boys? Yeah, he had a cameo. What do you think? If you can remember,
thought he looked a bit casting my mind back. He had a big chance and he missed, and he went on social media afterwards to apologise, which I didn't think was necessary. I think that the fact that some players feel like they have to do that says a lot. I think not about them, but about how sometimes the scrutiny. Because for a fact that he was getting like a million replies on Twitter or whatever going, oh, screw you, you missed or whatever. He's a kid in a Champions League game that meant nothing. It really doesn't matter. Obviously, it was a weird signing anyway, because he'd played 2 games for Atalanta, maybe, when we signed him.
Yeah, it was like for 3 or 4, I think,
Yeah, for a ton of money. I think he probably needs to go back out on loan next season, one would think. I don't think he's played every single game at Rangers. I only see it on social media when he scores a goal, which I think has maybe been like twice or maybe 3 times or something like that. So, look, maybe he goes back out on loan to Rangers. Maybe they have the conversation of, no, we'll just keep him there. It wasn't enough time. So I would be shocked if he was involved next season. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think he needs to fill out a lot more. Has a lot of. He's very skillful. And I think will do well in a Ten Hag system. But it just needs to fill out a little bit more, mature. The game needs to be mature a bit. At Rangers, was had a little dry spell, hadn't played. Was left out a little bit, and then now scoring here and there. So just needs to mature. His game needs to mature a bit more. But yeah, you never know. He could, like you said, could end up. Imagine that.
Europa
Imagine
League
that.
winners, Madden.
Imagine that of it.
Stu Pope says, I've never understood the De Gea slander. Any goalkeeper will be shite with that defence. Wow. That's the perfect note to wrap it up on, folks. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. And as you mentioned at the top of the show, the tickets for the 100K/first birthday party are in the description box below. So if you want to come and join us, then you can get your tickets there. Anyway, guys, we're out of here. Have a good one. Peace.